guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be doing some villain book recommendations. Share with you 10 of my favorite villain-oriented books. Some of them, the villain is the main character. Some of them we're following the villain perspective. Some of them I feel like just kind of work for this category. Vampires and villains is a theme for this year's Not So Scary-a-thon happening Monday, September 23rd through Sunday, October 6th. It's coming up so quickly. I wanted to get this video up to you sooner, so we're coming just a couple days before the readathon, but hopefully this will give you some good last-minute recommendations. A lot of these are good for fall or any time of the year as well. I have a few different styles of villain books that I want to share with you. I do also have a villain retelling recommendation video. So these are going to be all like origin stories for different fairy tale villains and different types of retellings. I don't think I have any retellings in this stack, so be sure and check out that video because some of my all-time favorites are in there as well. But for now, we're going to dive in. So we have The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. I'm actually due for a reread of this because the second book, which I think is considered a companion novel, just came out and it looks amazing. So in this one, we're following Alessandra, and she is tired of being overlooked, but she has a goal to gain back power. 1, woo the Shadow King. 2, marry him. And 3, kill him and take his kingdom for herself. We have kind of a villainous character where she is trying to gain control over this king's kingdom, and then she gets there and things are not exactly what they seem. There's a nice little romance in here as well. This is a young adult book that can be read as a standalone. The new book, I think, is a companion following different characters in the same world, but I'm not sure on that. I absolutely adore Trisha Levenseller's writing style. It's so fun. Her female main characters are so feisty and strong, funny as well. This is such a good one because she's got kind of a villainous plot afoot and you get to find out what happens. Next we have Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I don't think I share this one nearly enough. I absolutely love Marissa Meyer. She is currently my favorite author. This trilogy does not get enough love. It is so incredible. This is a young adult trilogy and we're basically following superheroes and villains. There are the Renegades, which are essentially prodigies, humans with extraordinary abilities. They emerged from the ruins of a crumbling society to bring about peace and order where chaos was currently reigning. They're champions of justice and remain as a symbol for courage and hope, except for the villains that they once overthrew. Nova has a reason to hate the Renegades and she is on a mission for vengeance, mostly following Nova, who is on a mission to bring the Renegades, essentially the superheroes, down. And then you're also following one of the Renegade characters as well. This series is so incredible. It's just written so well. Even if you feel like you're not going to love like a superhero style book, I think you should try this one anyway. The audio in particular is amazing. Rebecca Solar is my favorite narrator and she narrates them all. And it's just so well done all the way through every book. I think the last one is my favorite, but this is a close second. It doesn't get talked about enough and it's perfect for the readathon. Next up is Daughter of Smoke and Bone, another trilogy that I do not talk about enough. This is such a good trilogy, you guys. So this one is by Laini Taylor. This is a slightly older young adult trilogy. So around the world, black handprints are appearing scorched on doorways, left there by winged strangers who have come through a slit in the sky. There's a dark and dusty shop with a devil's supply of human teeth that is growing dangerously low, and in the tangled lanes of Prague, a young art student is caught up in a brutal war. Our main character is a little bit of a thief, not necessarily a villain, but she's kind of more of a darker type character. This is an angel-based series. It's so smart. It's so fun. There is a romance in here. We have so many interesting, morally gray characters. The second book in particular is amazing. The audio for these is also really, really good. Cannot recommend it enough. Next, we have Drink, Slay, Love by Sarah Beth Durst. So this one will work for the villain and the vampire category. This is such a silly novel that I talk about quite a bit. This is a standalone young adult vampire novel, and we are following Pearl, who is a vampire. She's part of her entire vampire family. They kill people and drink their blood to survive, and then one day Pearl gets stabbed in the heart by a unicorn and she's suddenly able to walk around in the daylight without being hurt. And so her family decides that they're going to send her to high school to kind of organize a plan to capture as many high school students as possible to serve at this big massacre feast that they're planning to do for some vampire royalty. Pearl has never felt guilty for killing humans before, but it turns out that stab in in her heart might have given her a little bit more than the ability to walk around in the daylight. Again, morally gray characters. Pearl is technically a villain because she is a vampire that kills people and drinks their blood. This one's silly and over the top and ridiculous, and I loved it. I've become a major fangirl of Sarah Beth Durst because I have loved all 3 of the books I've read of hers, and they are all extremely different. Spell Shop is like this cozy, witchy fantasy that is just a delight. This is one that's just like really silly, fun, and hilarious. And then I've also read The Lake House, which is darker and more intense and has like camping vibes, and oh, so good. But this is the perfect one for the readathon because it will hit the vampires and the villains category. Next, we have The Picture of Dorian Gray, a classic. I read this one a couple of falls ago, and I actually wound up reading it in 3 days at a time where I was not physically reading very much. It is only a 200-page classic, like our classics are. It is fairly dense and wordy and descriptive, but it was just so much fun to read. The main premise of Dorian Gray is he is very wealthy and he decides to trade his soul for eternal youth. And basically there's this portrait of him at his house that he has to keep hidden because it resembles what he actually looks like instead of this eternal youth that he represents. It is such a good story. It's great for fall. It's gothic and lush. It's well written. It's pretentious. It's just everything. I love it so much, and it's such a good one for fall, but also for the villains category. Next, we have Nevernight by J. Kristoff, part of an adult fantasy trilogy. Another trilogy that I really love and I don't share quite enough. In a land that has 3 suns that never set, a fledgling killer joins an assassin school, seeking vengeance against the powers that destroyed her family. So we're following Mia, and she is going to assassin school, and she is going around assassinating different people. Just kind of a morally gray villain, anti-hero character. This one is adult. It has more graphic scenes. It's got more sexual content. It's got more intensity to it, but it is written so incredibly well. If you like Red Rising style books, this is such a good one. It's such a unique fantasy world. The twists and everything are so cool and epic, and Mia is the perfect villain, not villain type character. Next, we have Nimona. This again is like the perfect book for villain category. This is a graphic novel that I absolutely adore. I have physically read it and I have done the audiobook. Obviously you want to physically read it because you're going to see all the pictures, but the audiobook is amazing. There's also a movie that I really need to watch. I'm not sure how well it follows the story. So we're following Nimona. She's an impulsive young shapeshifter with a knack for villainy. And then Lord Ballister Blackheart is a villain with a vendetta. As villain and sidekick, Nimona and Lord Blackheart are about to wreak some serious havoc. Their mission is to prove to the kingdom that Sir Ambrose Goldenline and his buddies at the Institution of the Law of Enforcement and Heroics aren't the heroes that everyone thinks they are. So we have a villain and his sidekick, and again, I don't talk about this one enough. I love this one. It is so fun. It is so funny. We've got such true villains and heroes and hilarity in here. I recommend this for any time of year, but especially now. Next, we're going to talk about Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This is an adult thriller that actually came out this year, so I do not own it yet. What if you thought you murdered your best friend? What if everyone else thought so too? And what if the truth doesn't matter? Lucy and Savvy were the golden girls of their small Texas town, pretty, smart, and enviable. Lucy married a dream guy with a big ring and an even bigger new home. Savvy was the social butterfly loved by all, and if you believe the rumors, especially popular with men. But after Lucy is found wandering the streets covered in Savvy's blood, everyone thinks that she is the murderer. It's been years since that horrible night, a night Lucy can't remember anything about, and she has since moved to LA. But now the phenomenally huge hit crime podcast, Listen for the Lie, and its too good-looking host, Ben, have decided to investigate Savvy's murder for the show's second season. So we have the podcast element here, so I do highly recommend the audio if you can, because it does different things. We have different kind of sound effects with scratchy phone calls and things. And in here, you're following Savvy and her train of thought, and she is constantly not remembering what happened and not knowing if she is the murderer of her friend, and you don't either. And she'll be talking to someone, and then there'll be a voice in her head that'll be like, just kill him, just go ahead, just kill him, just kill him, you should kill him. So you're like, oh my gosh, is she the villain? It's so good. I read it earlier this year in January. It's a great murder mystery. I didn't find it scary, but it does have some darker subject matter. It is an adult read. There are a couple trigger warnings for this one. Nothing that I feel like I couldn't handle. I don't like things that are too dark in certain subjects, but I really liked it. I thought overall it was just really fun to solve the mystery. I like the podcast elements, and Lucy is a great villain, not villain to follow. Next up is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I'm putting this one in here because, again, it's another all-time favorite trilogy for me that I literally never talk about. Could or could not work for this category. This is a young adult sci-fi trilogy that is so well written, so unique, and just so well done. It's absolutely incredible. We're set in a world without hunger, disease, war, or misery. Humanity has conquered all of these things and has even learned to conquer death. Now Scythes are the only one that can end life, and they are commanded to do so in order to keep the population under control. Citra and Rowan are chosen to apprentice a Scythe, a role that neither one of them wants. These teens must master the art of taking life, knowing the consequences of failure could mean losing their own. So you're following Citra and Rowan in here, and they are apprenticing under this Scythe, who is technically not a villain character, but is looked upon as villainous because of his job. And there are all these different kinds of scythes, and they wear these robes, and they're basically like reapers because they're there to make sure the population is under control. It brings up a lot of questions about morality and what we would do in this type of society, because we are even able to like reset our age. So as we get older, we can reset to a younger age, start over, have another family, and it just brings up all these really interesting things about what it would be like if this were actually happening. And every Scythe has a different way that they want to bring about ending people's lives, and I feel like this one is perfect for the villain category just because it kind of has a morally gray undertone to it. The entire trilogy is so good. The second book made me cry. I hardly ever cry in books. I cry all the time on movies and TV shows, but I don't cry a lot in books. I love this trilogy so much. I just have warm fuzzy feelings. Jeff and I listened to it together. I highly recommend the audio, and I highly recommend speeding it up to at least like 1.4 because he does have like a slower methodical cadence. I feel like the narrator brings out these characters, especially a certain one, so well that it would just change your whole experience. It's such an amazing trilogy, and you should definitely read it. And lastly, what I think is probably the perfect book for this category would be Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I read this one last year for Not So Scary-a-thon. I will link my reading vlog where I read this book from last year up in the cards if you guys want to go check it out. I've been kind of on the fence about how I feel about V.E. Schwab until the last year, and then the last like 4 books I've read of hers have become all-time favorites. I read this one last year in like 2.5 days, and again, I was not physically reading very much. This one sucked me in so quickly. It's perfect for fall, but also any time of year. This is part of an adult duology. I think we're supposed to be getting a 3rd book at some point, but it hasn't been announced yet. So we're following Victor and Eli, who started out as college roommates. They're brilliant, arrogant, and lonely boys who recognize the same ambitiousness and sharpness in each other. In their senior year, a shared research interest in adrenaline near-death experiences and seemingly supernatural events reveals an intriguing possibility that under the right conditions, someone could develop extraordinary abilities. But when their thesis moves from academic to experimental, things go horribly wrong. They're basically trying to get these extraordinary abilities and see if they can actually become powerful in different ways. While they're going on this journey, it gets very twisty. It is very dark because there's a lot of creepy things that happen with the near-death experiences and different things like that. So this is not a light read by any means. Again, not a scary one in my opinion, but it does have that darker, slightly heavier feel, but it is written so well, and there are characters to love in here. There's morally gray characters. Both Eli and Victor, you're like, are they a bad guy? Are they a good guy? Are they neither? It's just such a perfect book. I loved the second one too. There's a character in here that I could read from over and over and over again. If you love like a morally gray bad guy, this is for you. So good. So incredible. I will say that I remember trying the audiobook a few years ago and not loving the narrator. That may change now because I do think I'm going to try to do it via audio at some point and see if my thoughts have changed. But I physically read it really quickly and I loved it, and I love the second one as well. Okay, you guys, so that is a list of different types of villain, morally gray character books that would be perfect for Not So Scary-a-thon or for fall or for any time of the year. Some of my all-time favorites are in this stack. Let me know if you have read any of these down below in the comments, if you plan to add any last minute to your TBR, or if you know of any other ones that I may enjoy. I have another list of these types of books that I may share sometime in the future, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to check out the announcement video for Not So Scary-a-thon. I will link it up here in the card. Let me know if you're participating, if you're going to be team villain or team vampire. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Bright Side Girl if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time on The Bright Side.